doing, guys? Today we're working on a Kohler. This is another customer engine, I guess if you want to call it that. The individual asked me to kind of just go through it and make sure that it is safe to run. We're not going to be rebuilding it or anything to that effect, but it does have some issues. Namely, the recoil doesn't go back in. It coils, I guess, but it doesn't back in. So we'll take a look at that. This came off an RJ58, 59. I don't believe it's the original engine to the tractor. I know the carburetor for sure is not original to that tractor with this kind of choke setup that they got here. So that's probably been replaced. So we're just going to kind of go through it, clean it up, pull the tins off it. We might even pop the head off and see how things are going. But basically carb cleaning and rebuild, ignition review, and fixing that recoil, and then we'll get this thing hopefully started. First thing is first, and that is the carburetor. We're going to go ahead and disassemble this. I actually kind of started, but we're going to be taking obviously this choke setup because that is not original RJ equipment. We may have to put it back on. I may have to put it back on. I don't know, but in general, we're gonna pull this carburetor off. So get the choke off. We got one bolt on this side. We have another bolt which is right here. We'll take that off, and we'll be able to remove the carburetor, pull it apart, and see how. And hopefully, not see how bad it is. Hopefully, it'll be fairly clean. For starters, number one problem I always see with these motors, Clintons and Kohlers, and to a point Tecumseh's, the two bolts, the 2/4 20 bolts that hold the carburetors on are just way too tight. You can warp the base of the carburetor. Like, for example, I got this particular bolt here is loose, so that's fine. But this bolt here, okay, I mean it's just way too tight and does not need to be that. And when we put this one to get back together, we will make a concerted effort not to over tighten these. Just make them snug. New gasket. We're going to probably have to plane the back of this carburetor to make it flat, but just put clean it, make sure it's flat, put the gasket in, and just put the bolts on. And as soon as they feel kind of snug tight, just give them a little crank down and leave it alone. There's no need to put these things in at 100 foot-pounds, okay? All right, well, don't do that. It's bad. With the carburetor field stripped, it actually is in not bad shape. I mean, the float looks like it's in pretty good shape, and when you shake it, there's nothing in it, or nothing floating around, so that's probably reusable. The bowl itself is just dirty, but it looks like it can be cleaned up quite nicely. I'm real happy about that. The main jet needle, the tip doesn't look bad. It just needs to be cleaned. The idle jet needle, again, same thing, doesn't look bad, just needs to be cleaned. The base of the housing is not corroded. It's just dirty. It's a little bit of staining from the old fuel. Once I pull the gasket out, I'll be able to get this last bolt out. But one thing, where is it? Right here. Here's the needle. Actually looks like it's in real good shape. I'm gonna probably just reuse that. The seat portion of it, I did a long time ago. I just went to, maybe it was AutoZone or maybe it was Harbor Freight. I can't remember. I just got this 3/8. I believe it's 3/8, right? Yeah, it's a 3/8 deep well 1/4 inch socket. I ground it down so that way it fits real nice on these Carter end carburetors, and you can just pull those seats out without, number one, destroying them, and number two, with a full thickness of a socket, it won't fit. So I'm just going to go ahead, pull that out, and then we'll get this through the cleaner and see how it looks. With the carburetor run through the parts washer, it cleaned up real good. Everything's basically reusable on this carburetor. So I'm just going to get a kit for it and replace a couple gaskets and then throw it all back together. I do have to hit the needles with some Scotch-Brite just to clean them up. But other than that, the float needle and seat, they're in good shape. Just needs to be, just final cleaning. The float is in good shape. There's no loose bodies inside it. It did float in my fluid for longer than 24 hours, so it's fine. I just have to reattach the throttle top, but other than that, everything on the carburetor is good. I even already surfaced the back of the carburetor. You can see somebody's already had done it at one time, and I wasn't going to go. They must have did it with like 60 grit. I'm not going to go and tear into it that much. I just surfaced it with like 220 real quick on the flat plate just to make sure that it was good and flat. So that's all set. Just got to order some parts. The next thing is the ignition system, which I have absolutely no idea what in the hell is going on here. Obviously, they've got the condenser out here, clearly not factory. Number one. Number two, here's a factory engine plate screw there, and then we got some sort of square thing going on. So this is all, I don't know what that is. This is the kill wire, comes off the bottom of the points, and it goes to this non-original whatever. It looks like it's an old points bracket, to be honest with you. This is all going to disappear. This is where the throttle cable is actually supposed to hook up, and as you can see with this bracket here where the choke was, or the choke actuator, there's no way that you, and then with this thing, there's no way to get to that, where the this would be the kind of the binder clip for the coiled throttle cable sheath. So that needs to be worked on. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to tear this all out, get this all out of the way. I'm going to get the blower cover off, and I'll file back with you to tell you basically how hard it was to get the flywheel off. So I got the points cover off, and then I moved to the head tin to see, because I got to get that off in order to get the blower cover off. And look what I found. This is so classic for these engines. Exactly how was this engine supposed to cool itself? Okay, so we have the head tin off and the head is packed, but look at this. This is awesome. I find these things entertaining. This engine obviously has run hot. There is no way, and I don't believe this is a mouse, on the pretense that there's no like real fluffy stuff. This is just all grass. This is all dried grass and dirt. So this thing must have sucked all this stuff in. We'll see if it's a mouse when I get the blower cover off in just a couple seconds. So there's the inside of the blower cover, and again, I'm going to go with it's not a mouse that made that mess. That's just somebody not taking care of the engine, to be honest with you. The flywheel is loose. Just took a little bit of a pry bar, obviously hit the nut with my impact wrench to get it off, put it back on so it's loose, right? And then I just leave it just a little bit away from the end of the crankshaft. I took a little tiny pry bar, put it behind the flywheel, just added a little bit of tension, and lightly rapped with the hammer on the end of the crank right here. And when I say lightly, you can see I didn't disturb any of the rust on this nut, as well as I didn't disturb any of the rust on the end of the crankshaft. You don't have to usually beat the crap out of it. Some people, they shove it in there and then they come back and they come in at full steam with a big ass hammer. You don't need to do that. Just shove it in there. Just shove the thing in, give it a little bit of tension, and just rap on it 3 or 4 times, and boom, the flywheel will pop right off. And you can tell nobody's been in this one for a while. So let me just pull this off and we will take a look. Okay, with the flywheel out of place, we can take a look that there is a lot of just grass and dirt in here. There's actually, this is the factory location for the condenser, and there's, I guess, a condenser here. I have no idea what this is. It must be just a bypass. Even though there's a condenser here, it must be just a bypass, and they must have moved this condenser out here so they didn't have to take the flywheel off. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're doing. This is just like total lunacy. So we're gonna have to take this all apart, clean everything. We're gonna get a new condenser. I'm gonna call this coil, I'll test it, but it's not squishy, so that probably can be reused. And the points don't look bad, but we'll probably replace the points. So let me blow this all apart. Let's get it all cleaned up, and we might have to pull the head. I would like to take a look at that. Just to make, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, I have to show you this. This is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I have seen some really bad work on small engines, but this one is probably within the top 5. They did exactly what I had said. They used this condenser, the old location of the condenser, as a bypass. In other words, just a flow through. And look how stupid these people are, or were. That's the screw that mounts the condensers right there. You gotta be kidding me. They cut the original condenser in half, took out the guts, and just screwed this back in as a pass-through. They just use this, where my fingers are, they just use that contact as a pass-through. I have seen almost it all now. All you had to do was take a little care, and you would never have to necessarily come back in here again. But you have this wire that I have no idea. There's electrical tape. There should never be electrical tape on a small engine, bottom line. But there's electrical tape that feeds this wire. Where is it? Oh, sorry, one of these stupid wires. It's this wire right there. Feeds this wire. Okay, it's just I don't understand. This is completely batshit crazy. All right, I'm going to continue tearing this thing apart. With the head off and the engine block essentially cleaned, I got all the grime and the dirt and grass out of it. It does have a standard piston, so that tells me that it's probably never been rebuilt. It does have wear. You can see right, the bore is quite glazed over. The piston, when I put the piston up to the top and you grab it, you probably can't see on the camera, but it does move. It moves in both directions. So it definitely has wear in it. It is an oil burner. As you can see, I'm starting to scrape the cooked oil out of the head, but I'll get that cleaned up. It'll be fine. What else? It's going to basically need everything in the sense of a general tune-up. We're going to have to get a new head gasket, a condenser. The coil is still good, so we'll reuse that. We'll get a new set of points for it. We'll do the full kind of ignition rewire, and basically put it all back together. I do have a couple things I need to clean. I need to clean the head, got to clean the flywheel. The armature and everything looks real good. Where the heck is it? It's over there. The ignition wire is cracked, and I know I just said never to use electrical tape, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. It isn't cracked to the core, so to save the ignition wire, I'm going to just put a piece of heat shrink tubing over that crack. If it was cracked to the core, then I would say, okay, let's fix it, because I am trying to keep the cost structure within a reasonable, a reasonable thing. And we're not rebuilding it. I'm not going to stab the owner ridiculous for this. So, carb kit, condenser, points, head gasket, and I think that's about it. I did run a die quickly along these threads, and I did run the tap down the main flywheel nut. I lubricated the recoil. That thing came back to life just fine. Here's the nut. It's all cleaned and ready to go. So basically, I'm just waiting. I'm going to be just waiting on parts, and I'm going to probably order all that stuff up tonight, maybe tomorrow night, and then in the next video we'll put this thing back together and maybe even get it started. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. This was a fun one on the sense that it was more of mystery tour, because you never know what you're actually going to find. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And then I can't even do it correctly. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. As well as, until the next project, have a great day.